Okay, guys, we gotta watch this video. This is so far from the truth. This is Dustin Nehl here. I see her on the YouTube page. This Michelle gal, we've talked to her before, and I don't know where she pulls this stuff out of thin air, like a genie in a bottle. It's just unbelievable. Let's watch it.
There is something very large at play in the Palisades
Yeah, no
fire.
kidding.
There was a couple from Portland, Oregon, and they drove into the Palisades fire scene in a decommissioned fire truck. They had emblazoned this fire truck with the name Rolling River Fire Department.
Were they there like from
Roaring River?
All I know
And
is
no,
that they
we
got
weren't.
into the scene 2 days in a row before they were stopped and arrested.
Whoa.
I don't know if they burnt it down. We do know that they were acting suspiciously in the fire zone on a fake fire truck. Turns out the woman is a National Weather Service wind and fire expert who teaches juvenile delinquents climate change issues. They make rap songs called Weather Slaps. And some of the lyrics go like, wait until you see it all burn. And her husband, the guy behind the wheel, is a convicted arsonist who burned down country clubs and rich people's houses in a small town in Oregon.
Holy shit.
They were eco-terrorists. So I am convinced that this is an act of eco-terrorism.
That's insane to me.
Oh boy. Where do I go? Where do I go from here? Okay. Got a few things to answer. I'm sure you guys have questions. And you know what? I would be happy to answer. Because I was there. I wasn't on the East Coast sitting in my office, dreaming up scenarios and situations, pulling random ideas out of thin air. First of all, it's called Roaring River, not rolling. Roaring River. Second of all, we are not from Portland, Oregon, folks. Not in a million years. Never been up there, and we'll probably never live up there. Oh boy, where should I start? So, you know what? The truth is, we did go down there. We are from Linn County, Oregon, which is a rural farming community about 68 miles south of Portland. We have never lived in a big city. We like it out here. Things are quiet. You can, you can leave your keys in your car and not have to worry about anything. People help each other around here. You ever seen the movie Walking Tall? I mean, people around here, they say they're going to do something and they do it. If they come and they help you, you help them. So, when the Malibu incident happened down there at Palisades, we saw it on the news, and you know what? It was January. It was cold. It was rainy here. It was 70 degrees down there. It was nice weather. A lot of people that we used to work with were down there helping out on the fire. We knew a ton of people down there. Now, Jenny, she worked for the Forest Service for years. She used to be in what's called a heli-attack crew. She used to rappel out of helicopters. She spent years on wildland fire, as did I. I was on a hand crew and an engine crew. I ran a 20-man hand crew for years in the woods. And yeah, I know what you're going to say. We have nothing to do with structural. Oh. Hey, you know what? It doesn't take too many brain cells to figure out how to go on smoke patrol. That's what we were doing. We never even left PCH, guys. The fire was still burning when we went down there. When we got down there a week after it started, let's say on the 7th, around the 7th, it had already been burning. We were still in Oregon for another week. We came down to help, guys, after the damage was already started. We came down with nothing but good intentions to help out. We met up with some of our local guys. They were happy to see us. We took them some supplies that they couldn't get in fire camp. They were happy. Nothing was wrong. We didn't do anything wrong, we feel like. We went down there to help, and help is what we did. We didn't put anybody's life in danger. We didn't steal anything from anybody. We sure as hell didn't set any fires. If anybody's life was in danger, it would have been ours. We had all our proper PP&E. That engine I bought in 2020. I bought it from an auction in Dixon, California, and I had it shipped up here to Oregon. It's been sitting here on our property ever since. We have fires up here in Oregon too, guys. The fires have been getting worse everywhere. That's a given fact. I keep all of our gear in that thing year round. It just sits. Sometimes somebody will start a brush fire down the road from us with a piece of farm machinery, and you know what? We put a little water out, we're good. There is no money involved in this. We paid for this out of our own pocket. It cost me $700 in diesel to go down there, and believe me, George Soros does not live in my wallet. We have nothing to do with eco-terrorism, folks. Not a thing. And you know what? The last time I checked, I didn't know they made conservative eco-terrorists or people who were affiliated with Antifa that were conservatives. Is that a thing? Can somebody comment on that? Tell me if you know anybody. That'd be an interesting one to know. So let's get into it. We went down to Malibu. We were down there for about, 4 or 5 days before all this nonsense happened. You know what? I don't know how this has gotten so far-fetched, guys. This is just, you know what? In the media, how you guys can take stuff and twist stuff around so far. You basically have got 180 degrees going here from the truth. Let me tell you about my record. In 2016, I got in big trouble for setting off commercial fireworks, illegal commercial fireworks that you can buy legally in the state of Washington and bring down to Oregon and set off. Of course, they're illegal. We've been doing that for years. In 2016, we did the same thing, and I got caught. We used to go over this retirement golf course and set off commercial mortars, class 4 explosives as labeled on the mortar. We'd set them off at 1 or 2 in the morning, usually in the winter when things are quiet. Hence the winter when things are wet. Wonder why we'd do that. Well, first of all, it was dark. Second of all, it was usually raining, so we wouldn't have to worry about starting a fire. And third, you know what, folks? The truth is, there was never any fire. There was never any structure that caught on fire. Nobody lost any personal property due to fire. Not one house. Not one country club. I mean, how do you set a whole country club on fire? Doesn't that consist of like a golf course and a whole bunch of houses and trees and all that? And don't they water these golf courses? I mean, so they stay green? I mean, how do you set a green golf course on fire? That's... Anyways, so I got in trouble. The police went to the house. They opened the garage. They found my big box of mortars and a ski mask. I was cooked. I knew I was in trouble. I didn't know how much trouble I was in. I didn't think I was going to get 60 months for it. I didn't do 60 months because I got good time. I did more like 49. But you know what, folks? It takes a man to admit that he did wrong. And I did do wrong. I shouldn't have went over there and set those fireworks off and scared those elderly folks. My 6 buddies and I, we did this for almost a decade. Almost a decade. We went over there like clockwork about 4 times a year and set off mortars. And we did it all the time. And we finally got caught. And you know what? When I got caught, Woodburn PD, they were not going to let me off easy. They weren't going to give me a 6-month jail sentence. Oh no, they were going to make an example of me. And that they did. My buddies did get in trouble, but they never did any prison time. They did a few nights in jail and got probation, and they were out the door. So let me tell you about arson. Now, in the state of Oregon, if you cause a fire, okay, yeah, that can be arson. Something burned down, something was destroyed by fire. Okay, arson, yes. Now, in the state of Oregon, you can get in trouble for causing an explosion, and that right there is arson, even though nothing caught on fire. In the state of Oregon, if you cause an explosion and just by happen, maybe put somebody's life in danger, maybe it was your friend that you were with, or maybe it was somebody that lived on that golf course, which it was. Let's say they came outside right as one of the explosions went off, you can place their life in danger, which then makes it a felony, obviously, and also makes it a Measure 11. Folks, if you don't know what a Measure 11 is, I'm not going to take the time to explain it to you, but in Oregon, it's a pretty high up crime. Class A, Class B felony. Now, I was just telling you about arson in the first degree. You can get arson in the first degree and get some serious time without setting anything on fire. All you have to do is set off a firework and have somebody there standing next to it and place their life in danger, and you are going to prison for a long time. That's what happened to me. That's the God's honest truth. That's all that happened. Nobody, I'm going to say it one more time, nobody lost any property. There was never any house set on fire. There was nothing destroyed by fire whatsoever. We had some black marks on the golf course. We had some black marks on the asphalt that was caused by fireworks. That was it. Now, there was criminal mischief stuff and that. It did come about. We used to go over there and take their lawn gnomes and throw them on the roof. And then we'd go and take their patio furniture and turn them upside down and maybe turn the lawnmower upside down. And take the deer, the fake plastic Bambi deer, and put them out in the middle of the golf course. Just kid stuff. And we did that for years. They weren't going to let us off easy. They finally caught us, and they were going to make a big example and put you on TV and make you look like a bad guy. And they did. That's exactly what they did. And they got their conviction. You know what? I did my time. I ended up going to college in there. And you know what? It wasn't bad. I'm not trying to sell prison on you or anything, but there are some bad dudes in there, and those guys deserve every day they got. Should I have gotten 5 years or 60 months? Probably not. 6 months in jail. I would have got the point. Jail's a lot worse than prison. Keep that in mind, guys. Okay, let's get into this. So Michelle, we've talked to her before on the phone, and boy, she comes up with some outlandish stuff. Let me tell you, I have no idea where this woman pulls her stuff out of the air. I want to find out where she gets her knowledge from. Who are her resources? Mind you, this gal is on the East Coast. Who is she talking to? I mean, seriously, it bugs me. Where is she getting this from? If she's not getting it from somebody, that means she's just making it up. Well, maybe she is. I hate to think that, but you know what? I'm going to tell you something else. I've never shaken this woman's hand. She's never shook my hand. That means I don't know her. So that doesn't give me the right to say anything bad about her. But it gives her a right to put me and my wife on blast. Maybe if she met us, maybe she'd change her mind. Now, Army Hammer, don't know much about you. Why you're involved in this? And you know what? For the most part, I thought this was coming to an end. I thought people were starting to wake up and really understand what happened until May 1st. I mean, May 1st, May 2nd, when this came out. I mean, really? Are you guys hurting that bad for a story? I know what's going on. This is fading from the public eye. And if it fades from the public eye, it makes it harder to round up and get a good jury that's going to convict. I understand. I know how the game works. So what are we supposed to do? Get on there and just make stuff up? And see how many hits we can get on YouTube and Twitter and Faceplant? Is that what we do? Let me tell you about the Palisades deal, about the restricted area. That is true. We did go into it twice. Well, we didn't make it in the second time because we were stopped. But the night before we got nabbed, we met a couple in Santa Monica. We were traveling north on PCH. We met a couple in Santa Monica that actually lived in the Palisades. Now, these people were very nice, and they were very wealthy. And every night, now, folks, this is the honest truth. And you know what? When I get my dash camera footage back, you guys are going to see some stuff that you weren't expecting. There was some stuff in there that I was not expecting. Can you explain to me what fully armored military vehicles are doing in there? I'm not talking about Humvees either. Why would those be in there? Why would there be 300 Los Angeles County Sheriff vehicles lined up in a parking area all the way down one side of PCH with nobody in them? Where are the drivers at? Where are the operators? Where are the deputies at? Why do we need that many cars? If you got that many cars there, why aren't they out patrolling? Oh, I don't know. Beats me. But like I said, we'll see that footage one of these days. Back to it. This couple, they came up to us. Very nice people. They asked us, hey, are you guys going north on PCH? And I said, yeah, we were thinking about it. They said, well, hey, we've got around 300 hamburgers, and we need to hand them out to the National Guard, Los Angeles County Sheriff, and the firefighters. And apparently these guys did this every night, every single night that they could get in. They drove their brand new little Mazda SUV in there. They had that thing packed. They had so many of them, they didn't have room for them. So we put some of them in the fire truck. Folks, we went up to the checkpoint with these hamburgers after these people talked us into helping us deliver them. We told them that we were from Northern Oregon and we came down to volunteer. Volunteer is the word. That's what we were doing, and that's what we did. They thought that was so nice of us, and they actually offered us food. We had just eaten literally 40 minutes before that. We didn't want to tell them that we were full. We didn't want to seem like we were, basically telling them we weren't interested. But anyways, so we follow these folks up to the first checkpoint. Now, these people we're actually still in contact with, and these people, they would go to bat for us. But we've chosen to keep their name, keep it anonymous, because we don't need to drill them under the bus. And they're worried as it is. They didn't do anything wrong. So we get up to the first checkpoint. She gets out. She goes over to the National Guard. There's a Humvee on the left. There's one on the right. And there's 4 guys there. She goes up, and they already know who she is, what she's about. They didn't even look in the vehicle. She hands the guy a hamburger. She goes across the other side of the road, hands that guy a hamburger. I pull up, and he says, how you doing tonight? I said, oh, pretty good. How's it going? And we engage in small talk. Before I know it, they're moving the cones back, and there goes the SUV. They flag me and say, come on, let's go. It's almost shift change. So we go into PCH. We're in the restricted zone. We stop at every one of these cross intersections, which there must have been about, I'd say 14 or 15 of them. We stopped a bunch. We stopped at least every quarter mile. And PCH is around 20 miles long. We handed out hamburgers. I couldn't tell you how many National Guardsmen we handed out hamburgers to. And mind you, these guys have got fully locked and loaded assault rifles. They're all smiles. There's no threat, nothing to worry about. These guys are the nicest guys you've ever could have run into. I'm handing out hamburgers left and right. These hamburgers are actually really nice. They come in a cardboard box, something like I've never seen, in a perfectly square cardboard box, and they've got fries in one section and dipping sauce in the other. They were from a really nice restaurant down there in Santa Monica. They actually donated these to that couple because they knew what they were doing. And they would take them in to the Palisades area and hand them out to first responders and so on and so forth. So we hand out, I don't know how many. I got out of the fire truck. I was constantly putting it apart, putting it in gear, putting it apart, getting out. We were both getting out. Everybody was happy to see us. They keep asking me, oh, where are you going? You're going this way. I said, I'm staying on PCH. We're following these people. Oh, okay. Oh, well, you guys have a good night. Thanks for the food. Guys, these National Guardsmen, they had nothing. Nothing suspicious ideas in their mind about us. They had not a worry about us. I shook so many hands that night with Los Angeles County sheriffs and National Guardsmen and people that were just trying to help down there in the restricted zone. I couldn't tell you how many people. Like I said, dash cam footage. One of these days. We were in there for the longest time, and all we did was hand out food. There was so much going on in there, you wouldn't believe it. We finally make it to the other side, which is the other side of PCH, which would have been the northern end. We get out of there, we hand out one last round of hamburgers. Then we go into the closest camp, which is just a few miles up PCH and inland. We go to that camp and hand out numerous hamburgers. The guy who did all this volunteering, he jumped out and he says, I've never been in a fire engine before. I said, well, yeah, come on in, take a look, So he's in there, he's putting on my helmet, he's putting on the Squawk Box earphones and all that, and I'm just looking at this guy, and he's 10 years my senior, and he's like a 5-year-old. I mean, and that, I thought that was kind of cool. And they said, wow, you guys are, I can't believe you guys aren't being paid, and so on and so forth. You're just volunteering your time. And I'm like, yeah, we didn't have anything going on in Oregon. Times are slow up there. I'm not working because it's winter, and the winter season, we don't really work much. So, and they just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So after that, we leave that fire camp, and we go a few more miles up PCH, up to Camp Zuma, which is the main camp. That is the main fire camp for that fire, which is several miles away from this other camp that's inland. Camp Zuma is on the beach, right there on PCH. I think there was at one point 5,000 men on that camp. We went in to Camp Zuma, and she had a few hamburgers left over. She goes in there, and she goes to the mess hall and donates the rest of them to the later people that are coming in off the crew or what have you. We actually check in, folks, with another deputy at the gate. Tell them that we're from Roaring River, from Oregon, as volunteers. He says, okay, go up here, go up another couple of parking spots, and there's parking for engines up there. We checked in with this guy. He took our information down. Everything was just perfect. He even told us a couple of things about what they're going to be doing, and if we saw any wreck on the way here, because apparently that night there was some major wreck between two fire engines that happened on PCH, which I'm sure nobody knows about, but it was a pretty big deal. Anyways, we had nothing to do with it, nor did we see it, so we didn't have any information on that. So we proceeded in the camp, guys. We went into camp, we set up our tent as directed, and we slept literally 30 feet behind the engine on the beach. Coolest thing in the world. We got to sleep on Malibu Beach. Apparently it's closed to most of the public for camping the whole rest of the year. Don't know. But we did that. The next morning, we wake up and put away early, just like regular fire camp, roll the tent up, and we go to morning briefing. Okay, this is what we do when we're on a fire. This is what we did for years. You have what's called an incident command guide. It's a piece of paper printout about yay thick. It's for everybody. It's for the general public. It's for people that are there as far as support personnel. It's for volunteers. It's for firefighters. It's for TFLs, task force leaders, and ICs, incident command folks. Everybody gets one of these. It all says the same thing. It usually has a map, so on and so forth, over the containment zone, how much it's burned, what we're trying to do for the day, what our daily goals are, what to watch out for, what we saw yesterday, and what we're going to try and do today, what air is doing as far as dumping water. It shows everything that's in there. It's for everybody. This is not top secret information, folks. There is a sidewalk down there that runs parallel to the beach down there at Camp Zuma. There's people that live up there who were staying in adjacent neighbors' places that actually didn't burn down, and they would walk down there or jog. And every morning they would stand in on fire camp and they would watch because they're interested. I mean, they have every right to be there. They had lived there. And these people would walk by and they would pick up an incident command guide every morning. And they would flip through it and look at it. Sometimes they would put it in their pocket. Sometimes they would put it back. But they may or may not understood what they were looking at, but they were very interested in looking at it. Nobody ever questioned these people for looking at these pieces of paper. These are for the general public as well, if they want to inquire. We got a couple too as well. And we were very interested to see if there was any interior heat, any heat along Malibu Beach on PCH. So we did study it. And yeah, we had an incident command guide. No big deal. This is what you do. So, after that takes place, we go through morning briefing. They say what they're going to do, what they want to try to do, and apparently they were starting to let cleanup crews in. So anybody and everybody just about with a white Ford pickup was going through that restricted area that day. This was the day that we got in trouble, guys. So, camp briefing's over with. We roll up, we fire up the engine. We go north on PCH and go get fuel. We talk about what we want to do, and we were going back into the restricted area. Of course, we never made it in the second day. And we wanted to go do smoke patrol, kind of like what we were doing the night before. It's the easiest thing in the world, like I was saying. You look for heat, you look for smoke, you turn on the pump, you pump some water on it, call it good, go to the next place. It's got smoke. Very simple. Not rocket science, guys. So, we were going back in, and mind you that Camp Zuma is several miles from the most northern restricted point entrance right there. We got caught right there about, I'd say, 150 feet north of the actual border right there, which is the actual entrance to the restricted area. Now, they were talking about not having the right signs or not having any signs at all. That's why a lot of these charges got dismissed in the first place. They said that they'd charge us with felonies, but they never did, folks. It was just misdemeanors. So all we have now is entering a restricted area and impersonation of a public official. Okay, and these are both misdemeanors in the state of California. It's not like impersonating a police officer. The thing that was most disturbing, like I was talking about in the other video, when we got pulled out, there was 3 deputies standing right there. And they were calling in this, and they were calling on that, and on the radios, and it was just going crazy. They kept showing up. Code 3, one after another, right to the fire truck. These guys told me, said, what are you doing here? What's going on? Who's Roaring River? We don't have you guys on the roster. I said, we're volunteers from Oregon. Well, we don't have any volunteers. And I said, excuse me? He says, we do not have volunteers in California. and I paused for a second. I thought, what the heck? What do I even say to that? No wonder you guys are, needing so much help, looking for water. Did you ever think about that? You don't have people down here working for free, trying to help you? And if you did, you turn them away? So anyways, we get down there. We're out of the truck. We're having a powwow there on the sidewalk. And these guys are trying to figure out what's going on. And they keep asking me all these questions. And I'm watching out of the side of my eye. There's Los Angeles County deputies coming from either direction. I mean, they're just piling up. I think there was about 20 deputies there at one time. They're climbing all over my truck. They've got all the doors open. They've got this and that. And I didn't even give them consent to search. I pulled out my paperwork. I said, here's my insurance. Here's the registration. So on and so forth. I showed them that. I said, it's right there in the paperclip holder in the front seat. I'm behind the driver's seat. They went in there and got that. Next thing I know, they've got all of our personal gear out on the road. They've got everything, all the cabinets open. They're pulling everything out. All of our clothes, my boots, my socks, so on and so forth. They just got everything going everywhere. And I'm like, hey, well, what's going on here? I didn't give you guys, consent to look through the truck, even though there's nothing in it you're going to find that's anything that's, I shouldn't have. They've got my drone out, folks. They're looking through my drone. I've got a DJI, a little mini. And they're saying, did you fly this in California? Because I guess several days before, some guy with a drone was flying, and he hit a Canadian aircraft with it, took out part of the wing pretty bad. So they were freaking out about that. And they were asking for my password and get into the flight logs. And I'm thinking, Jesus, you guys, I mean, do you even know what you're looking for, So come to find out, I never even flew that thing in the state of California. We actually wanted to proceed after we left. We were planning to go all the way back to PCH, go, across the Golden Gate, and hit Oregon through that way. And I was wanting to do some beach flying in NorCal with the drone. Well, we never made it there, folks, and I don't have my drone anymore. But they were so convinced that I was flying that thing around, and looking here and looking there. And, I'm sure by now they've looked at the flight logs and see that I didn't even turn that thing on in the state of California. Thank God. Hallelujah. But anyway, so they're looking through all the gear. A couple more of these guys show up, and they're wearing all navy blue, and they look like something to do with, the Navy. And I'm thinking, what are these guys? Well, these are Cal Fire guys. They show up in an all-white pickup. And they're looking over the truck, and he looks at me, this little short guy with salt and pepper hair and glasses. I'll never forget this guy. And he goes, "You don't have any water. You don't have any water in the truck." He says, "The pump doesn't work." And I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Why don't you look right here on the gauge and look and see how much water it's got in it? It's got almost 700 gallons of water in it, my friend." He goes, "No, it doesn't." I said, "Why don't you go back there and look up in the tank? In that old engine, you can crawl up on the back and you can flip open the lid and look straight down inside that tank." That thing was completely full of water. And the first thing he told me, he says, "We don't need your water." He says, what do you think you were doing down here?" I said, "What do you think you'd be doing with a fire truck on a fire?" And then he got mad, stomped away, went around driver's side truck, started tearing all my paperwork up, everything that we had in there. I mean, just random paperwork, pictures and what have you. He's into my tablet, he's into my phones, and he's moving stuff around. He's got my hard hats turned upside down. He's shaking them out. And I'm thinking, Jesus, guy, what are you looking for? And I yelled at him. I said, "Hey, what are you looking for, dude? You want me to help you? Tell me what you're looking for, and I'll point you in the right direction." He said, "I don't, just be quiet," he says. So he's in there for another 4 or 5 minutes. I'm talking to these other deputies. By now, they've got her pulled out, and they've got her across about 30, 40 feet away, and they're whispering, so I won't hear the whole, nonchalant thing, trying to keep things low pro. I'm standing there listening to these guys, and they're saying, we don't know what's going on. I hear them talking. There's 3 of them talking about 30 feet north of me. And they're saying, "We don't know who this guy is." Of course, they run my record and see the arson in there and, all the prior conviction with all that. And I think, oh, God, this guy's. And then I heard the other guy say, "Well, we don't really have anything on him besides, unlawful entry to a restricted space." And, of course, they didn't even make it in there this time. So they get on the phones, and there's about 3 of these guys. They're on the phones with their sergeant. I'm listening. And they're saying, because one guy's on speakerphone, and he's saying something about from upper command is saying, "Hey, don't let these guys go. Keep these guys here until we figure out what's going on." So they're just kind of basically trying to keep us entertained. And this went on for probably 2 hours. They had us standing there before they even thought about putting handcuffs on us. And they said, one guy came up and actually said, "Well, you guys shouldn't be here. You're not registered with the roster, and you shouldn't, enter this place without having, entry and an E number." And I said, "Well, yeah, we're just volunteering. There's no present fire right here. There's no wind. There's no fret." He says, "Well, yeah." He says, "Well, I think we're just gonna, until you get out of here." And he said something along those lines. And I was like, "Oh, thank God, get in your truck and get the hell out of here." Then they started talking about towing the fire truck and all this. And I thought, well, Jesus, okay, they're going to tow the truck. We're going to have to do a little hitchhiking to figure out where it's taken to and, go get it out of jail. And yeah, well, then after that, about 20 minutes after that came the handcuffs, which was amazing to me. And I'm watching the whole time, and these guys are still climbing all over the fire truck. And this one other guy comes up and he goes, "Well, what are you doing down here?" I said, "We're volunteering. We came all the way from Oregon." "You sure?" "Well, how come this fire truck's got California exempt license plates on it?" And I said, "Well, you see that exempt license plate? That exempt license plate came with this fire truck in 1993 when this thing was brand new. It has never been registered privately. It is still wearing the exempt California license plate that was assigned to it in 1993. Now, mind you, I have this registration from 1993 to that fire truck. It's still there." And they said, "Well, this isn't a normal plate." I said, "I didn't switch plates. These are not stolen plates." Oh, my God, it went on and on and on about maybe it being a stolen fire truck. Then they were asking me about all these tools and, oh, my God, all these personal hand tools that I've got. I spent a half a day packing, of course, I packed all my good tools into that thing before I went down there. My Milwaukees and all that. Of course, they were trying to say that they were stolen, and I'm thinking, Jesus, come on, guys. What are we doing here? Are we telling me I shouldn't be here and giving me a slap on the wrist, or are you saying that I'm trying to burglarize, or what is going on? So there was a lot of secrecy about what they were trying to do with us, and we finally figured out that upper command got a hold of them on scene and says, "Don't let those guys go." I mean, I'm not sure if Robert Luna himself got on the squawk box and said, "Hey, tow that truck. Don't let these guys out. Take them in there and hold them." And she did 5 days in jail. I did 6. But yeah, the whole thing was just a horrible experience. And like I said before, nobody got hurt. Nobody had anything stolen from them. I didn't have such a thing as even a lighter or a pack of matches in that truck. Thank God. I had every tool known to man in that truck, my personal tools, but I didn't have a way to make fire. Thank God. If I would have put a Bic lighter or a pack of matches from anywhere in that truck, oh my God. Can you imagine? So anyway, we get out and we know that we've heard that this hit the news and couldn't believe that and what they were saying about us. It's so far from reality. And what they said about burning down country clubs and setting. Come on, folks, do you really think? Seriously? Don't you think we would have seen some footage of that, or I would have been in jail for like 25 years, and come on, really? I don't know how this gets thrown out of proportion like it does, but Michelle, you got to go with a story that's true, like the Boston bomber or something. Pick something out of the blue. Something that actually happened, something that's tangible, that you have facts on, that you can call up somebody on either coast and they'll know exactly what's been said on the internet. Not a bunch of confusion, not everybody's hearsay. So anyway, we're still fighting this case. When we're living our lives up here in Oregon, I went back to work, everything's normal. It's spring now, the weather's decent. The neighbors love us. Nobody's shunned us. They all have come over and say, "We're really sorry about what happened. We can't believe this." And you know what? A lot of these people around here, guys, they are smart enough to not believe everything that's said on the news. Folks, if you have any questions or comments, I would be more than happy to answer them. I'll give you a truthful answer. I promise. Until then, guys, or another update, I'll have to talk to you later. Bye-bye.